Great coaches and great mentors have a key skill. They can identify students who will be successful right from the beginning, and they pour their heart and soul into these students. And in my time that I have spent with great coaches and mentors, I have realized that there are 9 key traits that are effectively telltale signs of whether you'll be successful or not. So as you go through this episode where I'll be discussing the 9 key traits that indicate that you will be successful later on in life, or maybe you already are quite successful in life, keep a tab on how many of these traits you have and then drop them down in the comments below. The first of those traits are that successful people are very good at goal setting. They have a clear and specific goal. In fact, researchers like the American psychologist Edwin Locke has suggested that goal setting is the key driver of the people who end up being successful, who end up becoming the prime movers in their careers. He has gone on to talk about the prime mover theory and the goal setting theory, and hopefully this doesn't come across as a surprise, because unless you know where you want to go, you might end up there by chance but not by choice. So think about it like putting in a destination on Google Maps. If you don't have a destination, you might just go round in circles and end up getting really tired and really frustrated without ever reaching your destination. However, if you have a very specific destination that you've put into your map, it's just a short drive out there and you will have reached your goal. You can celebrate it, and when you reach there, you will still have ample energy left to pursue your next goal. The next trait that most successful people have is grit. Grit is effectively the persistence and the resilience that each and every one of us have, and people who have a higher resilience and people who can be continuously persisting in the face of failure are seen to have higher grit. The American psychologist Angela Duckworth has done a lot of research which has shown that grit is in fact one of the primary characteristics that all successful people have in common. So the next time you feel down and dejected, disappointed, pull your socks back up, because you are then demonstrating grit, and carry on. Because failure is a part of the journey. You only have to get it right once. You could have failed the 99 times like Thomas Edison did. The next trait all successful people have in common is this desire for continuous learning. In fact, experts like Carol Dweck have done a lot of research on something called the growth mindset. The growth mindset is sometimes contrasted with the fixed mindset. The proponents of the fixed mindset will tell you that human beings cannot grow as they age through the years. So they would suggest that your growing and your learning stops at around the age of 18 or 20, and from there on you don't learn anything new. But the proponents of the growth mindset suggest that human beings can learn through their life. In fact, research has shown that meditation, for example, helps you with neuroplasticity in your brain. And because of this neuroplasticity, we actually can keep on learning through the course of our lives. And people who know that they can learn anything are really telling you about their inherent growth mindset. So for example, from a very young age, I knew that I will never die hungry because I know how to learn. And when you know how to learn, you know how to implement. And when you can learn and implement continuously through your life, there is no other option but to be successful in doing whatever you want to do. When you have that goal specified in your life and you actually can learn how to achieve that goal, you become unstoppable. The next trait that most successful people have is effective time management. This should not really come as a surprise, because if you look on just YouTube, or if you look at your own life, you probably already realize that there are things that you can improve in terms of how you manage your time. In fact, research by productivity consultants like David Allen suggests that time management and effective time management is in fact a key unlock to how successful people find success. They have the same 24 hours that you and I have. However, they are managing their time differently. They are managing their time more effectively, whether that be by being diligent about prioritization, whether that be about outsourcing, whether that be about deleting tasks that do not serve their goal. Irrespective of how you manage time, to be successful in whatever walk of life, you definitely do need to have your time management skills dialed in. The next on the list is adaptability and flexibility. In fact, adaptability has been dubbed as one of the top skills required in the 21st century. And this should not again come as a surprise in the era of post-COVID-19. And also the fact that if you look at science and biology, Charles Darwin talked about the survival of the fittest. And how does the fittest survive? What is it about the fittest that makes them the fittest? It's this key trait of being adaptable to any situation that they are put in. And in fact, the more adaptable you are to any situation, the more success you'll find. And I don't have to give you examples of that. Nature has already proven that for us. The species that have adapted well to the changing climate and environment are the species who continue to live on this planet Earth. And I get it, that's being really broad brushed, but actually, even when you think about yourself as an individual and your goal, if you are constantly adapting to the situation that presents itself and you are taking into consideration and reformulating your plan of how you get to that goal, you will definitely find yourself more successful than others. The next one is networking skills. In fact, one of my earliest mentors ever told me that your network is your network. And as a 22-year-old management consultant, that really made an impression in my head. And since then, I have poured everything into my network without taking things out. So you could think about your network almost like a balance sheet. When you give something to your network, you are in credit. And when you take something out, you are in debit. So when you actually do good things for other people, you are automatically improving your credit score with your network. And you can call it good karma. You can call it just being a nice person and helping out where you can. Helps you out in the long run as well. And when you call in favors without ever having built up that credit score with your network, you are effectively debiting without having any credits. So you don't really have any good karma to pull from, and you are starting to exploit your network, which is what does not work. But actually having a nurturing network and pouring into your network has proven to be successful for most people I know in their careers, in their businesses, in their broader organizations. In fact, the American sociologist Ronald Burt says, instead of better glasses, your network gives you better eyes. And imagine how powerful that is, that even though you are not in the room, your network is picking up on things that they could relay back to you, and with that information you could take your career or your business ahead. And that to me is the most powerful form of networking. The next trait is people who follow their flow, and some people call this their purpose, some people call this their passion. However, I like to go by the definition that Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who is dubbed as the father of flow, comes up with. He says that when your skill level matches your challenge, then you are in the state of flow. If your skill is lower than the challenge, you are in a zone of panic. And if your skill is higher than the challenge, you are in a state of boredom. But when your skill and challenge are feeding off each other, you find this amazing state of flow, which almost feels like you are driven by this higher purpose. You are following your passion and all of that good stuff. And most successful people find success because they know that they are following their flow. And I'll be honest, whenever I find myself in a state of flow, it's almost meditative. I sometimes will lose touch with reality around me, and I'll be completely concentrated, engrossed, focused with the task at hand. And when you are putting in that much of focus and attention into a task, chances are that you are putting in that focus and attention into almost every task that you do. And when you are doing that, there's no doubt that you will find yourself successful in most of those cases. The next trait is they are financially responsible. We are a money channel, and I'll be honest, I haven't seen too many successful broke people. And the reason for that is that successful people try and address money head on instead of beating around the bush. They will know how to earn more and increase their income. They will know that they need to have an emergency savings. They will know that they need to save. They will know that only savings take them only so far, and they will have consistent investment plan. And after having done all of that, they will know how to spend their money to get the most out of life, to get money working for them to lead that successful life. And the final one is that of a positive mindset. And you can call this positive psychology, you can call this the abundance psyche, you can call it whatever you want. Essentially, it is really dwelling on being positive in the face of every situation and finding that silver lining. In fact, I like this quote from Martin Seligman, who says, optimism generates hope. hope releases dreams, dreams set goals, and enthusiasm follows. In fact, if there's anything that we live for, it is the hope that we will live for tomorrow. And if we are going to live for tomorrow, that becomes a dream. And because we have a dream, we can set that to be our goal. And once we have a goal, we can follow through with purpose, passion, flow, and we can persist and be resilient, and we can learn how to get there, and we'll manage our time effectively because of that goal that we have there. We'll find people who resonate with us on that journey, and we will find our flow, and we will take care of our financial situation while getting there. And that positive mindset just becomes this virtuous cycle of creating more abundance in your life. So those were the 9 key traits that I find most successful people have, and most of my coaches and mentors also tell me that these are indeed the key criteria that they are looking for in their students. Do you feel like you have some or many of these? Do you find yourself to be missing any of these? I want to know in the comments below, so leave me a comment below. And if you found this informative, please consider subscribing because it does motivate me to keep creating these videos. And if you enjoyed this, go check out this or this on my channel, and I'll see you the next time. Bye!